moving around and jumping around, and there goes his career.
He had 2 good years in Cincinnati.
He had 2 very good years.
But that was it. Got hurt in the playoff game against the Steelers. Chemo von Oelhoffen landed on his foot, and he's never been the same.
I don't remember that play.
It was pretty nasty play.
It really was. All right, as you probably know already, the big wide receiver last week was Calvin Johnson. Second week in a row, he's had a big game.
Now, I said it here this last week right here. I said he could have a huge game because the Cowboys will be dumb enough to let Brandon Carr cover him man-to-man all over the field. And they did, including the last drive of the game where he caught the ball to the 1. How do you not put a safety over the top? I don't know. I mean, I know that everyone blamed Rob Ryan for how bad the Cowboy defense was last year. Well, look at the Saint defense this year, and look what Monty Kiffin is doing out there in Dallas. The fact, I know Brandon Carr's a good corner, but you have a great wide receiver. He's giving up too many inches. He's just not big enough to go cover Megatron.
14 catches, 329 yards, and a touchdown.
Got tackled at the 1 twice.
Got tackled at the 1 twice. We'll talk a little bit later in our host-to-host or head-to-head competition, because I happened to have Breeze last week and Calvin Johnson, and rode my way to victory.
It was closer than you thought.
It was a big scoring week for the 3 of us.
It was closer than you thought. You thought you walked away with it.
It was close. Well, you had a couple of guys. We'll get into it later, but you had a couple of guys that went off too. Jordan Reed, our tight end last week, again, second week in a row. We told you to jump on this guy a couple of weeks ago. 8 catches, 90 yards.
Absolutely, he's consistent now. He's the number 1 option. Garcon has less targets right now because of the fact that Reed is open. Yeah. He's always open.
And this guy is like a receiver. He's one of those tight ends that, he's kind of built in the mold of a Graham or a.
He's a basketball player playing football that boxes people out.
Gates type of guy.
Has that quickness and the good hand-eye coordination, like he's catching a ball in the post.
Right.
Posting up a defender on his back.
Exactly.
It's amazing to watch him play.
All right, man crush. My boy, Peyton Manning, 30 for 44 last week, 354 yards. 4 touchdowns, but a slightly alarming 3 interceptions.
Funny thing, when Peyton Manning, you find a critique of the guy for throwing for 354 yards and 4 scores. Still had a great day. The 3 picks, be that as it may. But I mean, he's.
Well, you know what it was? He went. What was it? The first 4 games, I think, without an interception.
Yep, absolutely.
And then he's thrown probably 5 or 6 in the last couple of weeks. Maybe caught a little bit of Eli-itis or something. I don't know, but he'll be fine.
No, teams adapt. Defenses get a little bit better. They throw a few little wrinkles at him, but he's still the best quarterback in the game.
No question. The Commanders' man crush last week, Jimmy Graham, playing injured. Still wound up with 3 catches, 37 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I mean, 3 catches, 2 for scores. He wasn't targeted a ton, but he was targeted when they needed him, and he made big plays on all 3.
Yeah, we have to keep an eye on him. He's questionable for today. I think he's a game-time decision, and I'm sure everybody's going to want to know.
Well, if he plays, tight ends kill the Jets.
Yeah,
he'll be a monster this week.
Yeah. And your guy?
Didn't have a humongous day. Didn't get in the end zone is what I mean. But he still accounted for, somewhere in the neighborhood of 110 total, 120
Charles
total yards.
had his very typical stat line. 18 carries, 74 yards, 5 receptions, 46 yards. Just didn't get in the end zone this week.
The interesting thing last week watching the Chiefs, and they let the Browns back in a game that they were blowing them out early.
Yeah.
They came out throwing. And they came out throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
So it became a little less about the dump off and a little bit more about Alex Smith to Dexter McCluster. Smith. Not that Bo has been a factor all season, but he was throwing it to McCluster. He was throwing a little to Fasano. He was throwing it down the field to Avery. It was a little interesting, even some incompletions down the field. Normally, Alex Smith loves to check off.
Yeah.
Today's another game where Alex Smith's going to have to throw the ball to win the game.
Yep. All right, let's take you around the league with injuries. By the way, we're taking phone calls, 855-446-7284. You can also jump in on the chat box. All right, Arian Foster, questionable this week. Looks like a game-time decision.
Will be. Tate is definitely a guy to hold on to today.
Yeah, I think Foster's going to play.
It's Sunday night. It's the big stage. And I got to tell you, I think that the Texans will play well today.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be in that game.
Yeah. A couple of guys that we know are out. Jay Cutler still out. Doug Martin out. Finley out probably for the season.
But walking.
Yeah. Percy Harvin will not start today. Look for him possibly next week. He had a bit of a setback. But there's a guy, if he's out there in your league, grab him now. Jamal Charles questionable.
He's probable now. Practiced in full on Friday.
On Friday. DeMarco Murray
Playing.
is going to play.
Yep.
Ben Tate will
Playing.
probably play. What's up with Roddy White?
He's going to play also.
He's going to play.
And that, suddenly, with Atlanta, Roddy White, becomes the number one guy again. I mean, Julio Jones has taken that spot. It's been Harry Douglas the last couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
he's played well.
He has.
Harry
Douglas
Douglas has
played
been
well.
pretty good.
He has played well.
And he'll play well again today,
And
probably.
they get Jackson back, for the second week in a row. And, he had a bad game last week, but, maybe we'll see something better out of him this week. Darius Hayward-Bay,
Will play.
questionable, but should play. That's an interesting situation there, with Wayne out.
It's going to be Bay and T.Y. Hilton. I mean, and still, you expect the Colts to be able to throw the ball tonight, even with without the household name.
Yeah, I think Hilton and Bay will step up.
Now they lost Wayne and Allen, who were the top two targets.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I mean, if people forget about Allen, I know Fleener has been a guy I kind of liked a lot earlier in the year, but they've lost their top two targets from a year ago.
Yeah. You wonder, is Trent Richardson ever going to get rolling?
Tonight's another opportunity for him in a national stage, but Donald Brown's been doing as much as Trent Richardson. I have to start Trent Richardson today. I don't want to.
No, I have
because of the
leagues.
buys, I have no choice.
Yeah.
I have to hope that he gets into the end zone with a 1-yard run to make the night consistent.
You're
and that's what
absolutely
you're praying for, but he does have he was a guy that was truly a stud last year.
Yeah.
Just interesting to see how he's fallen so mightily.
Yeah, amazing.
Spiller's going to play.
CJ Spiller's going to play. I wouldn't sit Fred Jackson.
Now, here's the thing, though. The Chiefs are going to play 8 men, 9 men up. Jeff Toole beat me. It's gonna be that kind of game.
It is gonna be that kind of game.
The best passing option for them is going to be Chandler, most likely.
Yeah,
over
you
the
probably
middle.
want to sit your Bills today if you can. I know it's a rough week to be sitting anybody, but
But the Bills over the last couple of years have blown out the Chiefs 2 years in a row because of their speed.
Yeah.
Spiller playing, he has amazing speed. The Chiefs have increased their team speed, but with Toole playing quarterback, that's going to be a tough go.
going to be a tough one. Deshaun Jackson looks like he's going to play today. Marshawn Lynch
Is going to play
is
today.
going to play. James Jones.
Still questionable. Not sure about him. He's going to be a game time. I would sit there and wait till it gets really, really close.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. His game time is Monday night. If you're not sure today, play somebody else.
Now, if you have to set your lineup by game time today, you're taking a chance with Jones. If you're in a league where you can make a last-minute move on Monday night, you have a shot there. But looks like all the Patriots are playing today. Amendola, Edelman, Gronkowski.
Should all play.
Bolden, looks like they're all playing, folks. So
And watch out because Vereen will be back in 2 weeks also on this team, and he's going to be a big focal point in the running game.
is.
He's got to pick up. We'll talk about him later.
yeah, Zach Stacy looks like he's going to play.
It's going to be a tough game against that Titan
Very
front.
tough game against that defense.
I always hate teams that play a physical Monday night game, and then their next week is always a very tough game, especially if you play against another physical team, and the Titans are.
Yeah. Dwayne Bowe, if you care.
He's going to play.
He's going to play.
He's going to play, and today could be a day where he breaks out a little bit just because the Bills' strength is going to be up front.
Yeah. And then Jimmy Graham will probably play today, but he's kind of a game time decision. Colston, I believe, will play. It's going to be an interesting game there. It's a windy day. Jets are playing at home. You could see the possibility of Breeze trying to, kind of shorten up the passing game a little bit. And I could see a guy like Colston having a big day.
I could see a guy like Sproles having a big day.
I could see a guy like Sproles
Or
having
Pierre
a very
Thomas.
big day.
I can see
Yeah.
guys like that.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say the game's going to be close, I don't think it's going to be because of the Jet defense. I think it's going to be because of the Saint defense. I think it's going to be because of the Jet offense being able to run the ball. A guy like Chris Ivory going up against his old team could be looking to show something.
Yeah, my friend, the only way this is a close game is if
No one could be more
is if
wrong
the
than
Jets,
you on a regular basis.
Well, I'm not disputing that. People can go back on the archives and watch the shows, but I just don't see it happening unless the Jets get a special teams touchdown, unless the Jets get a defensive touchdown, or 2 or 3.
They're going to have to hit Breeze. They're going to have to hit him.
But
They're
dude,
going to have to hit him. He's a small quarterback.
He's
They're
a
gonna
small
have to hit him.
quarterback that has been sacked the least amount of times in the last 5 years.
I know,
he gets
'cause
good
he-
protection. He
and he
gets
gets
the
a quick
ball up
release.
fast.
The Jet front four is good. The Jets will get a pass rush as long as he's trying to go down the field. If he dinks and dunks, no, they won't touch him. But if he's trying to throw the ball down the field, they will hit him.
Yeah, yeah. All right, you know what, Chris, you want to go to a quick commercial break? All right, we're going to do a quick commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Again, taking your phone calls, 855-446-7284. It's Fantasy Football Code Red on enravio.com.
Dude, it's me again. You know, Village Music Shop in Mastic. Anyway, you all know my dog, Mr. Big. Yeah. Well, Dudes and Dudettes Village Music Shop has been in business for over 37 years, serving musicians with the best products and service around. Oh, they have private lessons on all instruments and in all styles of music in their new state-of-the-art digital teaching studios, with the excellent sales and service of guitars, drums, school band instruments, amps, PAs, as well as sheet music, books, and accessories. Basically, Dudes, everything musical. Right, Big? Yeah. Chill out. Village Music has rentals on all instruments, even PA systems for your parties and barbecues. Oh, cool. Dudes, Village Music Shop never has a sale on stuff because every day our prices are lower than all the competition. Stores, internet, whatever, guaranteed. Yeah. So come to Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Phone 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Anyway.
Radio.com.
Oil City Skate Park, Long Island's only indoor skate park. Skateboarding, BMX, inline skating, open 7 days a week. Nearly 150 decks by Baker, Flip, Girl, Chocolate, Real, Plan B, Crimson, Zero, Element, DGK, Bogata, and more. The best in tees, hoodies, wallets, trucks, wheels, bearings, t-shirts, hats, and DVDs. New York's largest Santa Cruz dealer. Introducing Jark Skateboards, Europe's best-selling deck. Oil City Skate Park, 3565 Maple Court, Oceanside, New York. Phone 516-442-0706 or go to www.oilcitysk8.com for more info.
InRavio.com. Welcome to the future of radio. InRavio.
Hey, this is Chuck from the Two Guys and a Chick Show. Check us out Wednesday nights from 7 to 9 Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about stupid news, email bag, and all-around BS. Two Guys and a Chick Show, only on enravio.com, broadcasting to the world.
What are you waiting for? Everyone else is advertising on the internet. Shouldn't you? Tired of small returns on phone books, newspapers, radio ads, TV ads, coupon books, direct mail? Everyone is on the internet every day. Advertise on the internet for as low as $100 a month. Over 250,000 impressions per month on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, enravio.com, and more. Go to the Advertise With Us page on enravio.com and get started today.
All right, we're back. We're going to go quickly through last week's studs, and sleepers.
Quicker than usual, we're going to try.
Yeah, we're going to we'll try to keep the focus on this week a little bit more. My quarterback last week, RG3, terrible game as a stud. My running back was Frank Gore. He had a decent game, 19 carries, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception.
Good game.
Not bad. I had Jarrett Boykin, who was really expecting to step up. He had a good game, 5 catches, 89 yards. Would have been better with a touchdown. And my tight end stud last week, Jordan Reed, 8 receptions, 90 yards. Pretty good game.
Yeah, my studs, not so good. Romo was okay, threw for a couple of touchdowns to Des Bryant. The thing with Romo was he was really struggling yardage-wise until late, so it really wasn't good. But LaShawn McCoy was awful. Didn't really get off last week against the Giants at all. The Giants ate him up. Didn't do much. Garcon had a few catches, but didn't get into the end zone, so he didn't do anything. And Jason Witten's biggest fire-up was, fighting with Des Bryant at the end of the game with 12 seconds left. That was the most fiery I saw him all day. So that was pretty much what I had with studs
this year. All right, my duds. I did pretty well with the duds last week, with the exception of Andy Dalton, who I expected to come down, back down to earth a little bit. He wound up going 19 for 30, 325 yards, 5 touchdowns.
A monster there.
And a pick. I should have had him as a dud this week. My running back, I had Steven Jackson, 11 carries, 6 yards.
He didn't do a thing against that Cardinals.
3 receptions, 7 yards. All right, total of 13 yards, no touchdowns. Terrible,
On
terrible
14
day.
touches, 13
Terrible
yards.
day. Justin Blackmon, 4 for 31. He was a dud. And Jared Cook, 3 receptions, 31 yards, also a dud.
Non-factor. Matt Ryan was awful last week, so it ended up being a pretty good dud. He threw for under 200 yards, threw a score, had a pick. Chris Ivory didn't do a thing last week for the Jets. Good dud. Josh Gordon, I was wrong about, had a pretty good game. Only had 4 catches, but he broke 100 yards and had a score. Got a long one. And Gronkowski did not play well, so I was good there.
Yeah. All right, my sleepers last week, of course, at least once a week. Somebody that I put into my studs, and sleepers is hurt. This week it was Michael Vick. Michael Vick played, I think, less than a half. Didn't do a whole lot. Won't be playing this week either. My running back sleeper, which probably shouldn't have been a sleeper,
We teased you about it last week.
it was no Sean Marino, 44 rushing yards, but 6 receptions, 89 yards through the air, and a touchdown. Terrence Williams is my wide receiver, 2 receptions, only 2 receptions on 10 targets. Did get 64 yards and a touchdown. And I also had, as a flyer, Brandon Bostic, who did absolutely nothing.
Sleepers last week, Alex Smith had a big day. Threw for a couple scores, threw for over 250 yards, big game. Lamar Miller, I expected them to go a little bit more to the ground game last week in Miami. Didn't really do much. He was okay. He had about 70 yards rushing. Donnie Avery had a couple of catches, but nothing special. Chandler had a big day reception-wise, didn't get into the end zone, but he had, I think it was like 7 catches for like 70 yards.
Yeah.
So not a bad day from Scott Chandler.
All right. All right, let's get to our studs, and sleepers for this week. I'm going RG3 again this week.
You gonna ride the wave?
I'm going to ride the wave. You know, he kind of let me down last week. I think he's going to come back with a big game this week against San Diego. San Diego's defense still kind of full of holes, both in the passing and ground game. RG3 he's a threat in both. He's going to find a way to get it done. He's going to take what the defense gives him. I expect a big week from him.
I'm going to go head-to-head with you, take Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
I think Rivers will have a good game against the Washington porous secondary as well. They're not a McCown ate them up a couple weeks. I mean, they're not a great defense.
No.
I think Rivers will play with them.
Okay. My running back stud this week, Le'Veon Bell.
I like him too.
Against the Pats this week, I like it. The Pats aren't doing a great job of stopping the run. Steelers travel to New England this week. I like it.
I always go with Rice, but with Charles. But this week I'll go with Ray Rice. I think Ray Rice will have a really, really strong game. I think he'll be able to get into the end zone maybe twice today against the Browns.
Okay. My wide receiver this week, a guy that has kind of been quiet most of the season, but I expect him to have a big game this week, is Steve Smith against the Falcons. The one thing the Falcons haven't done well this year is play defense, and or one of the things they haven't done well this year, because it's been a rough year for them so far. But I like Steve Smith this week.
Nope, I like Royal out in San Diego. I think Royal will get open. I think he'll get into the end zone at least once. I think that everybody gets all excited about the other Charger receivers, and they forget that Royal got off to that really fast start, then he got banged up a little bit. I think he'll have a big game.
Okay. All right, my tight end this week will finally be Jason Witten.
No, you're playing him. I played him last week. He killed me.
Listen, he's been a big disappointment this season so far. He only has 2 games with at least 7 fantasy points. Romo's been spreading the ball around, but we're going up against the Vikes this week. I think, the Vikes will probably look to try to stop the deep threat. I think that'll open things up for Witten. I think Witten has, a 7 or 8 catch kind of day, maybe 90 or 100 yards and a touchdown.
I think he'll play well. I think Martellus Bennett will also play well on Monday night. I think McCown will feature him a lot. I think he'll get into the end zone. And while we're at our studs, just got a little bit of a note from the general. Roddy White inactive. So they had said he was going to play, and then yesterday, and as of today, inactive.
Thank you for that, General.
To go through the commander The commander just wanted to wait and see if he called, but he didn't. Loves Pryor today because he's
I like
a Raider
Pryor
fan,
today.
so
I like
of course
Pryor
he's going to
today.
take Pryor. No, I think that they'll play well against.
You know
the
what? I have
suspect
him
Eagle
as a
D.
sleeper. I have him as a sleeper. He's going against the Eagles. The Eagles have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks.
Except for Eli.
Yeah, except it's a home game. It's a bye week. There are a lot of quarterbacks out. I like Pryor.
His
this week.
90-yard run last week was amazing to
Yeah.
watch. He also likes Flacco to have a big game for Baltimore against Cleveland. Running back, he loves DeMarco Murray. He's his guy. Likes Tolbert, I guess, to get into the end zone a couple of times. He could have called him a sleeper. He's going to
Yeah.
call him a stud.
Okay.
Likes Josh Gordon and T.Y. Hilton as his receivers. Easy to see why you like Josh Gordon. Every week the guy puts up numbers, and he has drops. Imagine he was able to hold on to the ball. The guy
Yeah,
would be
I like Hilton
dangerous.
this week, though.
And Hilton should be a real good feature wide receiver for the Colts. He's the number 1 guy now. Let's see how he handles that pressure. Also goes with a Colt at tight end with Fleener. Thinks Fleener, he's good riding my wave with the Fleener, and has Tony Gonzalez. His duds this week, we go, we didn't get to duds yet, did we?
All right. Well, why don't you throw out his duds, and then we'll give ours.
Absolutely. He likes Alex Smith and Nick Foles both to have tough games today. You can see that. I'm a little different with him. I think Alex Smith will play a little bit better, but I see Foles having a tough day. He's got Fred Jackson and Zach Stacy as his dud running backs.
Okay.
He's got Golden Tate, wrong Tate. Golden Tate and Torrey Smith as dud receivers today. And he does not like Cameron or Olsen at the tight end position. Now we'll go to you, sir.
All right, my dud quarterback this week is Andrew Luck against Houston. Going back to what you said, I think Houston's going to play a decent game. They're in Houston. Houston does have one of the better pass defenses in the league. They're allowing a league low 146 yards passing per game. No Reggie Wayne. I think Luck might have a rough day.
I agree with you. I'm going to say, and it's a guy you can't bench ever. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a tough game on Monday night, even at home against the Bears. I think the Bears will play well against him. I think that they'll get a little bit more done on the ground than in the air this week.
And I think that's going to be more of their game plan. I mean, they're talking about running the ball more. They're talking about actually reducing the number of carries or touches for Lacy and increasing them for Starks, but throwing the ball less, which is a little bit contradictory, I guess, to their normal game plan. They're a throwing team.
Well, without Finley, without Jones, really it's just Nelson that's sitting out there. They lost Cobb already also.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying that Boykin can't get it done, and I'm not saying that, the backup tight ends like Bostic can't get receptions here and there, but it's really Jordy Nelson as your household receiver. And they're going to get big and ugly in the cold weather as they start going through Green Bay, and I think they're going to start doing it this week.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Running back, I think Alfred Morris has a tough day today. I think the Chargers do well against the run, and I think that'll be an interesting matchup. I think they're going to have to throw to win, which will go with your RG3 theory.
Okay. My dud actually this week is Matt Forte. They are playing in Green Bay. Number 4 ranked defense. They're allowing 83 yards rushing per game. The Bears going to be without Cutler. I think they're going to load up on Forte and see what happens. But I don't see Matt having a huge day.
Who's your dud receiver?
My dud receiver is Vincent Jackson at Seattle. They're on the road against a great defense.
And they didn't play well last week, Seattle.
Yeah, they
struggled
didn't play
against the Rams.
Yeah, but
they'll come back. I think
think
pissed
they're
off
going
at
to come
home.
back big. Yeah, I think they're going to go hard against that offensive line, and I don't think the Bucs will do a lot on the ground. I think they're going to get to Glennon early and often, and I think Jackson will be double teamed all day. I just don't see Jackson having a big day against Seattle.
I'm going to go with Stevie Johnson. I like Jackson as well. I'm going to say Stevie has a tough day with Jeff Toole trying to get him the ball today against the Chiefs.
Okay. All right, my tight end dud this week is going to be a little surprising probably to most people, but Gronkowski against the Steelers. The pass defense for the Steelers has been very good. They're looking to rebound, after that game against the Raiders, and I think they're going to be fired up. I think they're going to play an aggressive defense. I think Gronkowski will have a decent day, but I don't think he goes off today.
No, I don't either, actually. I also don't think Tony Gonzalez is going to have a big day today. That was when I thought Roddy White was playing. I'm going to stick with it a little bit. I think that they're going to double team him off the line, force Matt Ryan to go to the other options and stuff like that. Douglas and and they don't have a ton of depth. I'm blanking on the kid's name, but he had a pretty good game last week as the number 2 receiver. I think it's Davis. But I think Atlanta. I think Gonzalez will have trouble getting going.
Okay. All right, let's get into our sleepers. We talked about my sleeper quarterback a little bit, because of Kevin and his pick with Pryor. I like Pryor this week, and I kind of already talked about why, but, it's a week where, you've got 16. This is, probably the worst bye week of the season.
Oh, it's hard.
And, I think Pryor, as a plug-and-play is a good play today.
Jake Locker's my guy. I think Jake will have a pretty good game today. I think that the Rams coming off a real physical game, and listen, the Ram front 4 is good, and Quinn's a monster.
Yeah.
You can't guard him, and Long's just as good on the other side. He gets more attention actually, but I think that if he's able to break and get out of the pocket, he'll be able to run for one and throw for a couple. I think he has a good game. Commander also likes Locker, and he likes McCown on Monday night.
You know what?
He thinks McCown will
We're
play
going to get
well.
into our waiver wire pickups in a minute, and I've got McCown and Locker on my list.
And I like Case Keenum to play well tonight
yeah,
too.
you know what? I had to pick up a couple of quarterbacks this week because I had Peyton in one league, and I can't remember who the other quarterback that I had is. That's off this week, but I had to dig deep this week for a quarterback.
No, it's not even like you can go like an old standard like a Carson Palmer to play. He's got a
Exactly,
bye too.
yeah.
There's so many guys that have byes this week, and there's so many bad second-string quarterbacks like the Kellen Clemens and the Jeff Tools of the world playing.
Yeah.
That you have to go and find guys like a McCown, like a Case Keenum, like a Geno Smith, like
Yeah.
an Alex Smith. This
Yeah.
is really where you're going to now.
That's what it
This
is
what
this
you're
week.
looking at.
All right, your quarterback.
Mine was Jake Locker. We went through
Okay,
that.
okay.
And the commander likes McCown and
McCown.
Locker. So let's go running back.
All right, running backs. I'm going to go with James Starks as my sleeper this week against Chicago. He's back. He's healthy. McCarthy's saying he wants to get Starks more involved. They want to limit Lacey's touches a little bit. I think as a sleeper in a big bye week, Starks might be a good play.
I like that. I'm going to go with McGahee against his old team. I think he's going to try to show he's got a little juice left. I think he might get into the end
tell
zone
you.
once, maybe even twice. I know he looks old. I know he hasn't played well.
He's been horrible.
He's
but
been
if
awful.
There's a week.
This is
If
the week.
There's a week for McGahee. It's
the
this
425 game, home game. They've lost 11 straight to Baltimore. I don't know why. I'm going to go out on the limb and say that. Now, when we go through this, the commander likes Ben Tate to play well tonight against the Colt defense. Also likes Sean Green. Thinks that he could do something. Another guy to look at also would be Matthews on San Diego. Had
Yeah.
a really good game last time out, over 100 yards. So
Yeah.
something to think about.
All right, my wide receiver this week, Nate Washington against the Rams. Washington's been pretty invisible the last 3 weeks. He's had Fitzpatrick throwing them the ball in 2 of the 3 of those games. Locker is back. Locker has a big arm. Washington likes to run the deep route. If there's a week for Nate Washington as a sleeper, it's this one.
No, I like Hopkins on the Texans. Seem to be riding that wave with the Texans and Colts going back and forth. I think that Andre Johnson still gets all the attention. Hopkins still gets the other corner. It's always nice to go up against the other corner, and I think
Right.
Hopkins will have a pretty solid day. Also think Denarius Moore will play well.
Yeah.
I think that he'll have a really nice game against the Eagles secondary.
Yep.
Commander also a big fan of Denarius Moore, but that's unlike him as a big Raider fan.
Yeah, but it's a good
It's
call.
a good pick. And
It's a
he
good
has
call.
Hayward Bay also as another wide receiver he likes, and I think that's something that could really be a factor. I think Hayward Bay will have a decent day
Yeah, I
as the
agree.
other
I
receiver on
agree.
that side.
All right, my tight end this week, Kyle Rudolph against the Cowboys. Rudolph has been remarkably inconsistent.
Hey, it's
But-
a remarkably inconsistent quarterbacks throwing him the ball.
That's absolutely true. But the Cowboys have allowed the 3rd most yards and the 5th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Christian Ponder gets to start. He loves throwing to his tight end. I can see Rudolph having a good day.
I think so too. He had a really good year last year. It's because the Vikings have been so bad
Yeah.
that it's just hard to sit there and ride a guy on a bad team like that. I like Delaney Walker to play well against the Rams. Rams have struggled a little bit against tight ends. I think that Delaney could have a nice game. He's just a tough matchup. He's kind of quick. He's big-bodied, gets out in front, and he should be able to do some good things. I think Fasano could play well against the Bills. I also think that the other way, I think Chandler will play well against the Chiefs. So, I mean, there's a few guys. Commander likes Timothy Wright and Michael Rivera as his sleeper tight ends. Wright has the tough matchup against the Seahawks, but if you're going to find someone to throw to, it's going to be the tight end. Rivera should play well today also, I think. I think he'll be a factor.
All right. All right, let's get into our waiver wire. Like we've been saying all show, it's one of those weeks where you're going to have to dig deep, guys. And, we talked about quarterbacks. We talked about Locker a lot. We talked about Keenum a little bit. We talked about McCown. Alex Smith is another one that might be out there for you this week.
Absolutely. Geno Smith's someone that could be out there for you this week if you're desperate. If you look at the numbers, he puts them up. I mean,
Listen,
he's not all, and he's going to throw picks as well.
If you
but
can live with a couple of interceptions, you might get some garbage time because it's going to be a blowout.
But I'm not saying that he would be my first choice. Locker is the guy. It's no blowout this week. The 2-6 Giant fan next to me is sitting there trying to piss on my 4-4.
All right. Well, my prediction is 38-13 Saints. What was yours?
31-27.
31-27.
I'm not going to say
right.
who wins. I think the game will be closer than you think. But, I mean, definitely be on top of your waiver wire today.
Yeah.
And also there's a couple of general stud quarterbacks that have fallen off a little bit. Guys like Brady who have not been consistent.
Yeah.
Guys like Ryan who don't have the weapons that they started the season with. There are other options. Guys like Flacco could end up being, free agents in your league this week.
Yeah.
Guys that you could pick up.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't. And
I have to say, in the 4 leagues that I'm in, we were talking, in terms of pickups, Locker, McCown, Alex Smith, Keenum,
Pryor.
maybe Pryor.
Yeah.
That was as good as it got.
It's a tough week for quarterbacks. It just is.
It is.
A lot of studs sitting out.
Running backs, Ellington, if you can get him, get him.
No, absolutely. He's definitely a guy that played real well. Now, here's the thing. It's a bye week, so it's a bye week pickup.
Yeah.
But trying to beat everybody to him for next week. I think the same thing with Vereen, who's probably 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
Definitely
Grab
a
both
running
of those
back you
guys
want to
now.
grab.
Don't wait until next week when they're playing because it'll be too late.
No, it will be way too late. Jump on these guys while you can. Wide receivers.
Wide receivers, we had Marvin Jones, so I have to tip my hat to the commander. Marvin Jones.
Loved him.
Marvin Jones, or the commander called that one last week, and Jones went out and had a huge day.
No, he did.
4 touchdowns. Kenny Stills.
Has been consistently good.
Kenny Stills is a guy that, in that offense, especially today, I like Stills. I'd pick up Stills. I've been talking about Percy Harvin now for weeks. If he's out there, still somehow grab him. He'll be back within a week or two, and he's going to be, number one receiver that you can pick up right now off the wire.
Kendall Wright with Locker back is a guy definitely to look at. He's someone that you could find a spot for on your team. Again, the Marvin Jones thing is something we were looking at the beginning of the year. I remember talking about Sanu being that other guy.
Yeah.
Sanu couldn't hold the spot. He actually had a big fumble the other day on what ends up being an interception on Dalton, but a ball over the middle that he couldn't hold on to. It's really become Marvin Jones' team. Davis on Atlanta, another guy to look at, especially with Roddy White not playing.
Yeah.
They are going to throw the ball. Why not let him throw it to your guy?
Hey.
And Brandon LaFell being a fourth guy because the Falcons just do not do a good job.
Yeah,
in
I like
pass
LaFell.
defense.
He's not consistent, but he has the capability of putting up a 4 or 5 catch, 90-yard game with a touchdown.
They're an interesting team. And Jonathan Stewart, the other running back I forgot about, comes back today, this week. I mean, I don't think he'll get a heavy load this week, but I think he'll be part of the way the Panthers play. The Panthers are a good team. The thing about them, unfortunately, is Cam Newton might get his 2 or 3 touchdowns in a week, 1 rushing, maybe 1 or 2 throwing.
Right.
The problem is that he throws about 17, 18 balls a week.
Right.
It's not like they air it out 35 times like most
Right.
of the other teams.
Right.
They're running the ball a lot with D'Angelo Williams, with Tolbert, now with Stewart coming in. And, and he spreads the passes around to Steve Smith, to LaFell, to Olsen, to the backs. So it's a different team.
Okay. All right, let's get into sit starts. My quarterback start of the week in a very thin quarterback week is Russell Wilson. He did struggle last week against St. Louis, surprisingly. Sacked 7 times. But he still managed 18 fantasy points. The last 2 quarterbacks to face the Bucs, Nick Foles, Ryan, and Cam Newton all scored at least 28 fantasy points. I like Wilson this week to have a very above-average week for quarterbacks this week.
I think RG3 and Rivers both, I say start the shootout in that game. I think that they both have a real legitimate chance to do well. I think that game's going to be, no matter what the weather, a relatively high-scoring game.
Yeah.
With not a lot of great pass defense from either team.
Yeah. A quarterback to sit this week, if you could possibly afford to sit a quarterback, Matt Ryan. Again, no Julio Jones. Again, no Roddy White, as we just learned. It was tough last week against Arizona. He had 4 interceptions, sacked 4 times. Not expecting a big bounce back for him this week. The Panthers are tied with the Seahawks for the fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks. They also have a lot of picks.
I remember week 3 when the Giants and the Panthers were both winless, and everybody up here, the Giants have to have it. They're going to blow them out like they did last year. And the Panthers were starting nothing but injuries in the defensive backfield, and they shut the Giants down. It wasn't a fluke. They played that well all year.
Yeah.
I think that's a legit sit. I mean, another legit sit to me is Flacco. I think that Flacco's going to have a tough game against Joe Hayden and that Brown D.
Yes.
I think that I think that game's low scoring. I think that game is like, your 16-13 Browns, Ravens game. I think the Ravens probably find a way to win because they always do beat the Browns.
Right.
But I think in Cleveland's defense, we talked about it last week with the Cardinals, talk about it with the Bengals a lot. Certain teams that play great defense at home and on the road are a little more suspect. Cleveland at home plays great defense.
Okay. All right. A running back to start this week.
Yes.
Much to my surprise, I didn't think I'd be recommending this particular gentleman anytime soon, but Chris Johnson this week against the Rams could finally have his big day. The Rams defense has allowed 8 touchdowns so far this year to opposing running backs, 5 scoring double digits in fantasy points. I can finally see the Johnson of old getting a lot of touches today and racking up some yards.
I think his speed is a problem for the Ram D. Laurinaitis is a great middle linebacker, but if Johnson can escape it. I'm going to go with McGahee. I think that McGahee's the kind of guy that's going to be up for this challenge this week. I think he's going to play well. And he has been awful, but I think he's going to play well this week.
Yeah. All right, a guy to sit this week, if you can, Mike James against Seattle, at Seattle. Last week was James's first start in place of Doug Martin, who's still out. No surprise, he 10 carries, 39 yards, 4 catches, 25 yards, no touchdowns. He shared some playing time with Brian Leonard. Leonard had 6 catches. I think the combination of James and Leonard this week is going to suffer greatly against that Seattle defense.
I think a guy to sit is Pierre Thomas this week. I think the Jets usually do a really good job stopping the opponent's running back. I know that this is going to be, and the Saints are great at spreading it out back and forth on who's going to have the big week this week.
Right.
And I think that this is the week where Sproles will kind of be more of the factor than Pierre.
Absolutely
I think,
agree.
and in a league you might have to start Pierre. He might have been your 3rd or 4th running back, and I'm not saying that you can afford to, but look at that waiver wire and see if there's somebody better, because it's tough to run against the Jets, particularly at that stadium.
Now, I think what's going to happen in that game is it's windy at MetLife Stadium today. I think what you're going to see is the Jets trying to keep Breeze off the field as much as possible. They're going to try to run. I think they're going to try to get Geno Smith to just manage the game and try to eat the clock. I don't think they're going to have a ton of success, but I think what you're going to see from the Saints this week is probably a short passing game, a lot of slants, a lot of quick passes. I don't think they go deep too much, but I could definitely see Sproles having a big game.
I could too. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. And again, it's a week where you're going to see both Bernard Pierce starting as well as Ray Rice, and a week where you're going to see Sproles and Pierre Thomas both starting, just because in most leagues, one of your starters is sitting out. There's 6 really good quality running backs not playing today.
Yeah.
And when you have that kind of scenario, it's tough.
Yeah.
And you didn't think Noshawn would be that guy at the beginning of the year, but he is.
He is.
He's a must start.
He is. All right, wide receiver start of the week. We talked a little bit about Rivers against Washington today. Keenan Allen should be one of the benefactors. Is that a word, benefactors?
I believe he is I believe he will be a benefactor.
Listen, he's looking like the go-to guy for Rivers right now. 23 catches, 369 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the last 4 games. He's going up against that putrid Redskin defense. Allen's top 15 this week.
Now, I think DeAndre Hopkins will be the guy. I had mentioned him before. I just think that as that other receiver, Case Keenum has a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
He looked really good against the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago. Now he's gotten a couple more weeks to really study the playbook and kind of open up the offense a little bit more to him. Johnson's still going to be the guy they're targeting on defense, and I think that Hopkins will have his moments, and I think he'll play well.
Yeah. A guy to sit this week could be Colston. We talked about him a little bit earlier in the show, about the potential of having a pretty good game, but it's pretty amazing that the Saints have scored 35 points. They scored 35 points against Buffalo last week. Colston had 3 catches for 18 yards. The Saints are averaging 29 points over the last 3 games. Colston has 3 fantasy points over those games.
He's become such a non-start in this league right now.
He hasn't scored since week 1.
He is not a factor. What's happened is that tight ends have become much more of the variable on that team and on a lot of teams than a receiver that's not very quick, but kind of gets open in the seam routes. I mean, Colston was never a split end. He's a great slot receiver. Not a lot of great speed, but it was a matchup problem.
Yeah.
Now teams are getting bigger in the defensive backfield, and Colston is not what he was.
Yeah.
Another, sit for me. I mean, you can't sit him in the fact that Vincent Jackson's going to have a really tough day against Richard Sherman, and Glenn's going to have all sorts of problems with the crowd noise.
Yeah.
And Jackson might be the kind of guy that quits if things don't go well. But it's hard to sit him. I would lean more towards sitting, maybe a Steven Jackson and Stevie Johnson, and that's a tough sit too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that become very, very difficult that you might have to play.
Yeah.
Maybe it's maybe it's a Dobson that you don't make sure you don't play against the Steelers secondary that's been real good also.
Yeah. Tight end star of the week. We talked a little bit about Martellus Bennett. Another guy I like this week is Greg Olsen. In his past 3 meetings against Atlanta, Olsen has at least 50 yards in each game and a touchdown in each game. Atlanta's a little soft against opposing tight ends, 5 touchdowns.
They made
this
Jeff
year.
Cumberland look like a star, make me look smart one week, which is nice.
Yeah, so Olsen could be a good play this week.
Yep, I agree. Again, I like Bennett like we talked about. I like Delaney Walker a little bit. And I think Scott Chandler will have a big day. Not big day, but he'll be the primary target. The guy's 6'7", and I think he'll be the guy Tool can find.
Yeah. Anybody else that you can think of this week that we might want to talk about?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's a week where you really want to be all over that waiver wire. Be very smart. There's going to be some pretty good players that get released because somebody has to make a pickup.
Yeah.
Pick up guys for a week in advance or 2 weeks in advance.
Absolutely.
Look at your playoff matchups right now. Prepare what your team's going to look like in matchups weeks 14, 15, and 16.
Absolutely.
And pick up the appropriate player to be that backup in case of an injury. It's time to start thinking that way. If you're 2-7, 2-6, no.
Yeah.
If you're 4-4, start thinking about the playoffs.
Yeah.
And mostly, both leagues I'm in, the one that we're in together, actually, first place and last place are separated by 3 games.
Yeah. So it's really, it's a crapshoot. Who's going to make the playoffs at this point?
And second place and 12th place separated by 2. I mean, it's just there's one team that's 6-2, and there's like 3 teams 5-3,
right?
And everybody's really 4-4, 3-5.
Right.
It's wide open, and I think that's happening more and more in a lot of leagues. My other league has one team that's 7-1, which is rare, and everybody else is kind of jumbled up in that 4-4, 3-5 range, with a 5-3 team here and there. And you got to just, matchups are going to happen. Hey, listen, you're never going to bench your Peyton Mannings and your Drew Breeses and your Aaron Rodgers. Those guys played with you forever. But look at a guy like a Roethlisberger. I think, by the way, my upset special, I think the Steelers are going to win in New England today. I think they're going to play well. It's the kind of game that kind of fits the way Roethlisberger plays. If the defense comes to show up, Roethlisberger with the ball in his hands down 3 in the 4th quarter in a sloppy game with Ninkovich on his legs and still getting a pass off to Antonio Brown is something we can all see. Or Heath Miller and Brady trying to come back the same way with Jarvis Jones hanging on him and making the throw.
Absolutely.
It's going to be interesting.
All right.
We've also just learned that Colston inactive.
Colston inactive.
So he is now someone we told you not to play anyway.
Okay.
But Colston inactive. See, what happens when we do the show
But-
live before they go out for the pregame warm-up,
Yeah.
we only could go by what they said yesterday.
But that increases the value of a guy like Stills or a guy like Sproles or, even Jimmy Graham to a degree.
Absolutely. Ben Watson.
Ben Watson.
Is another guy. Meacham, another guy.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different options out there, but Stills is really the guy that's most likely
To benefit.
to be the beneficiary of this.
Yeah.
He'll be out there every play.
Yeah. All right. A segment that we haven't had time to get to in the last few weeks, so we'll get you caught up in our hosts head-to-head competition. As you know, each week we each draft a team for the week and go head-to-head. This week was very interesting.
It's close matchup, but you
Close.
were the winner.
Close, but very high scoring.
Absolutely. Everybody scored over 150 or above.
Yeah, I mean, I had 185 points. You had 169. Kevin had 149
And lost.
and lost both of his games in a week where 149 points
Usually wins.
usually
Ollie.
wins. You had a couple of guys go off. You had, obviously, Rodgers with a decent game. Des Bryant, Jordy Nelson, big games.
Jimmy Graham with his 3 catches, but 2 of them for scores.
Yeah.
And everybody was in double digits except for the Seattle defense, which finished with 9.
Yeah.
Had a really nice
Yeah.
game.
I know I lucked out this week with Breeze as my quarterback and Calvin Johnson as my receiver. The two of them combined for like 95, 96 points alone. I had Charles and Gore who
But
had
Reggie
decent
Bush
games.
did great for you, too.
And Reggie Bush had a big game. So
Commander Peyton Manning was still huge.
yeah,
Wes
Lacy,
Welker, Antonio Brown.
Gronkowski probably cost him a little bit. Gronkowski only 4 points for Kevin last week. So that might have been what cost him the week. But right now, we are at a point in the season at where I am now
A game behind me.
A game behind you in second place. You're 10-6. I am 9-7. Commander bringing up the rear at 6-10. Do we have a minute? Yeah, we have a minute. Let's go into our draft for this week. Take a look at who we have playing this week. Interesting week again because of all the buys. Commander, Rodgers, Charles, Forte, Harry Douglas, who will probably be a good play now that we know that White is
definitely
out. Gordon, Graham, DeMarco Murray, Crosby, and his defense is Seattle. I have Romo, who I like this week, Peterson, McFadden, who I'm thinking we're going to see the better part of his season going down the stretch. I have Des Bryant, Nelson.
Yeah, my receivers from last week.
I have your receiver.
And Deshaun Jackson. You have all 3 of them.
Gronkowski, Bailey, and Oakland. Why don't you tell us?
I have RG3 as my quarterback this
We've been
week.
talking him up the whole show.
Absolutely. I put McCoy in as my running back because he killed me last week, and I have Lacy as my other running back. I think he'll play well on Monday. I got Antonio Brown, who I think will do well against the Pats, especially if Talib doesn't play. I got Brandon Marshall. I know that he's got McCown throwing him the ball, but I think it's good enough. I got Gates as my tight end. I got Garcon as my receiver, my flex, I should say. Nick Folk is going to be kicking me to victory today. And the defense I will be playing will be the Tennessee Titan defense.
I like Tennessee.
I went
this
on a
week.
couple of limbs out there. I mean, definitely with Tennessee, RG3, Lacy is a guy to start, and Folk.
Yeah, I think my biggest flyer this week was taking the Oakland defense, but
McFadden's a flyer too.
and McFadden.
McFadden's always a flyer, and the Commander, his flyers were Douglas was really his his one that you don't expect him to take, and
Yeah, I mean, he took Mason Crosby, and that was about it. All right, I think that's a wrap for this week's show. Thanks for checking in with Fantasy Football Code Red on nradio.com. Thanks to the very lovely Christine behind the glass. Good job today, Porterhouse.
it's not the same without the Commander.
Commander, hope you're feeling a little bit better. Eat some crackers, take some aspirin, do what you got to do. Get yourself back on the field next week, and we will see you next week.
Absolutely, split that beer with your wife.
Have a good week, guys.
Take care.